Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This for Finding Carter, Season 2, Episode 3, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. And a lot of people have been complaining about this season, saying that it's not as good as Season 1, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about, because this, in my opinion, was the best episode of the season. I love this episode, and I thought this episode, honestly, was just, it really was perfect, because it really deals with the theme of the season. The theme of the season is all about getting over what Lori's done to them. That's why we're not seeing Lori as much. A lot of people have been complaining that we're not seeing Lori as much, and that's because of the fact that they're trying to get over what Lori's done to them. That's what this season's all about, and I love that, and let's get into this episode because it was amazing, and it was by far best episode of the season. So, of course, after last week's reveal with David having an affair with Lori, we see Carter, she's listening to her parents argue through a closed door, and David says he should have told Elizabeth before this, and he's sorry. She asks how Carter knew, and he says she confronted him, and she says Lori is trying to take her and Taylor from her too, and, that's true. That is what Lori's trying to do. Taylor comes up and asks what's going on, but Carter says she couldn't really hear, and she asks Taylor what's up with her, and she says that she broke up with Max over the whole crash thing, and she says some things are just unforgivable. And Carter says now isn't the best time to break up, and Taylor says she was ready to give up everything when he got shot, and he thought forgiving Crash was more important, which is true. I mean, that's really why Max got shot, but again, Crash is willing to, basically, Crash, I think, has completely redeemed himself. After this episode, I'm pretty sure Crash has just redeemed himself, and I don't really think Taylor should be worried, because Crash apologized to Max. He knows what he did was wrong. He's trying to turn himself around. In fact, they even get into a really nice friendship in this episode, which I definitely want to talk about, and I really like seeing that. So basically, their parents start yelling, and Carter says a fight doesn't mean people have to break up, which is true, and I like that Carter's saying that, because she doesn't want this to mean that Elizabeth and David are getting a divorce, and she asks her not to go, but Taylor walks off, and I understand what Carter's trying to do. She wants Taylor and Max to be together, because honestly, what they did break up over, yeah, was kind of silly, but honestly, I knew they weren't really, I understand, they had to break up eventually, but they just got back together, and now they're breaking up again. It does seem a little bit silly and just a little bit ridiculous. So David asks Elizabeth if she thinks the girl is hurt, and she asks him why he slept with Lori, and he says they were having problems. She says it's not about the cheating, but the kidnapping it turned into. That's what she's most upset about. David says he couldn't have known she would do this, which is true. He is saying the truth here, and it had been 2 years since they stopped seeing each other when Carter was taken, and Elizabeth says she can never get past this, and I can understand why Elizabeth's so upset about this. So Max wakes up Grant, telling, Max wakes to Grant. Basically, Grant is telling he and Carter there's a family meeting and he's not getting any Disneyland vibes from it. And Carter says this is all her fault, but Max says no. She thinks that Elizabeth and David are separating, that they're getting a divorce. That's what she thinks is happening. And basically, she reminds Max that he thought it was his fault when his parents split up. And she says she can fix it. And she also says she'll fix he and Taylor. And Max says he needs to get his truck fixed and head back to Pennsylvania. She asks him not to go, and basically, I was very interested in seeing what was going to happen there. So the three kids sit for the Wilson family meeting, and Elizabeth says they're splitting up, and Elizabeth says that they just need some time, and David says they're not planning on a divorce, they need to split up for a little bit. It's kind of like the Americans, if you remember in season 1 when Elizabeth and Philip had to separate. They're not getting a divorce, they can't really be around each other right now. That's really what it is. So, Elizabeth says they have stuff that they need to work, though, and David says they hope we'll go back to normal soon. He says they will take turns sleeping there with them. He says he'll sleep his nights off at his office, and Elizabeth says she'll stay with her parents. And Taylor then reminds them that's actually Joan and Buddy's anniversary party tonight, and this is like the worst time for them to be having this conversation because it's supposed to be a fun occasion, celebrating their, grandparents' anniversary. And Carter says they should all go as family, but Elizabeth says she has to tell her parents this on their anniversary, but Carter says she doesn't have to tell them right now, and I mean, the thing is, though, so many secrets. Like, how many more secrets can you keep from them? Seriously. And Elizabeth agrees, and at school, Taylor chases Carter down and asks why they're splitting up, and she asks if it's Kyle or something, Lori did, and of course, Taylor has no idea about the affair or anything, and Carter lies and says she couldn't hear what they were arguing about, and Taylor says everything is under control, yet they're breaking up, and Carter doesn't seem surprised, and Taylor asks if she's keeping something from her, and before Carter can say anything, she gets a collect call from Lori from the jail, and Carter says it's Lori, and Taylor says not to take the call, and Taylor leaves for class, and I really do feel bad for Taylor. Again, Taylor we're seeing again this season, she's not being told everything. You know, she's being kept out of the fold, and you really do feel bad for her because, I mean, this happened to her before. She wasn't kidnapped and Carter was, and now this is happening and she doesn't know, why her parents are getting a divorce, and Carter does. And, I mean, not getting a divorce, but splitting up. She doesn't know why. And now, but Carter does know why. And I think it's really well done the way they're handling that. It's just showing that, Carter knows a lot more than Taylor, and I really like seeing that. So, like I said, I think Taylor's going to end up being the most vulnerable character this season. So Grant says he can't go to the party because his suit doesn't fit and says he told him 3 months ago, and David says he can skip school and he'll take him to buy a suit after class. He loads Grant in his SUV, throws in his suitcase, and Max can take his truck to see Crash and to get looked at, and he says it's a couple thousand worth of work and tires, and Crash says he can do it, but then asks about rehab, and Max says he can't do it, and Crash says to get a job, and he says he had a job, and then Crash shot him, which is true, and Crash offers to get him a job at the shop, and he says no, but does accept a ride home, and I like that Crash is trying to, fix the damage that he did to Max, but he's trying a little bit too hard now. I mean, I don't think it's that Max doesn't want anything to do with him. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just that Crash is, I understand he's trying to make an effort and wants to make up for what he did, but he's just trying a little bit too hard now, and while I appreciate his enthusiasm, I mean, he just is trying too hard. So Carter comes to check on Elizabeth before the party, and she says she doesn't know she can smile and pretend things are okay. Carter says this must be painful for her. She says she knows David loves her and asks her to remember that. Elizabeth says everything that Lori said is just in her mind. She's thinking back through their lives, and now she's really just thinking about everything Lori ever said to her. Because, again, what did Elizabeth used to think? That Lori was just some person that they knew for an egg donor. That's all she thought. She never thought that there was anything else between David and Lori. I still kind of feel like there is something else going on here. I feel like David is not telling her the whole truth. I mean, just think about it. It doesn't exactly make sense from going to an egg donor and having an affair. I just feel like maybe she was pregnant and didn't want to tell Elizabeth. I feel like that's really what's going on there, but I don't know. What do you guys think? That's what I think is going on. So basically, she says she feels alone, but Carter says she's there, and they are all there, and she says it doesn't matter what Lori says, and says Lori knew what she was listening and was manipulating her, and she says Lori doesn't get to win, and I love that line, because it's true, Lori shouldn't get to win. And Elizabeth says she's right, she holds up a dress, and Elizabeth says it's okay, then says no, and again, I've said before I do feel bad for Lori, but as much as I do feel bad for her, she's batshit, okay, she's batshit, she's crazy, and she always will be, so she says she needs to go shopping and asks, do you need anything? And Carter says, yeah, but says Taylor isn't home yet and asks if she knows she and Max broke up. And they hear a car, and Elizabeth looks outside and then blows up, and it's Crash dropping off Max. And Elizabeth gets pissed off at Crash, and it's understandable why, of course, because, Max is like family to them. Elizabeth shows up, starts yelling at Crash. She says he's escaped justice again, but isn't allowed near his family or her family. Carter tells Crash he needs to go, and Max thanks Crash for the ride, and Carter asks for a minute, and Elizabeth and Max go back inside, and I really like this scene because I was interested in seeing what Carter was going to do with Crash. I mean, because it's really awkward that Crash is now back in her life, so I was interested in seeing what was going to happen here, and she asked why he came there, and he says he was just dropping Max off, but says he was hoping to see him, and he says he won't come back around if that's what she wants. He asks if that's what she wants, and Carter says she can't think about him. She walks off inside, and Elizabeth asks if Taylor knows about him hanging out with Crash, and Max says he wants to forgive him and move on, and it's true, that's what Max wants to do, he just wants to forgive him. So Dave introduces Grant to his TA Hillary, and he asks her to make an excuse for him for the meeting, and she comes up with a story. And basically, Carter pulls out some suit jackets and tells him to pick one so he can go to her grandparents' party. And she says he has to go, but he asks about Taylor. And she says they want him there. And she says Taylor will be busy with a college person. And he shouldn't really worry about Taylor because she'll be there by herself and she'll be fine. And Carter asks if he still loves her. And he says he doesn't think she still, she loves him. And she says they should try and be friends even if the relationship isn't working out. And he relents and chooses a suit. And I like what Carter's doing. I mean, what they fought over, there's no reason to break up over it. I understand that we're upset, but there was no reason to break up over something as silly as Crash is back in our lives and I'm pissed at you. That was stupid what they broke up over. So I like that Carter's trying to make them realize that this does not need to be just a breakup. They can fix this themselves, and I really like seeing that. So Grant asks David if he's dating his TA, and he says he and Mom have separated, and David says it's not like that. David says he's hoping he and Elizabeth will make up. He asks Grant if he likes this suit, and he says no, but no one cares about what he wants, and it's true. I mean, Grant, you really do feel bad for him. I mean, no one really cares what Grant says. I mean, it's true. So And Grant is even more vulnerable than Elizabeth at that point. I mean, Taylor. He's even more vulnerable because of the fact that while while Taylor, while Taylor was still very vulnerable. Grant doesn't even know any details at all, and he's not even involved in this, and he feels really pissed off about it, obviously. So I really do feel bad for him. So basically, we see that Carter asks if he's still. Basically, we see where was I? So basically, after this, we see that they run into Elizabeth at the store, and we see that they're at the same store. It's pretty awkward, but I kind of feel like Carter set them up, and David says Grant is feeling insecure, and Elizabeth says she doesn't want Grant to think that she's the bad guy, because she's not, and Taylor comes out in a short black dress, and David says it's too revealing, and basically she says that Carter told her to dress up like a slut, which is totally something Carter would do, and Taylor's phone rings, and she says Lori tried to call her, and Carter tells him that Lori tried to call her earlier too. They wonder why is Lori calling, and Taylor asks why she can't leave them alone, and what she wants from them, and Elizabeth says she'll file a complaint with the warden, and basically they all head to the anniversary party, and Taylor sees Max and David and asks if that's his suit, and Carter says she invited him, and Elizabeth says that their grandmother's crazy about him, and Taylor says Grandma isn't his girlfriend, and Grant says that neither is she, and you can just see that they don't want to reveal that Carter set all this up just to get the two of them back together, and Taylor gets mad, then goes and tries to snag a drink. We see another side of rebellious Taylor, which I really like seeing last year. I mean, again, this is kind of what Carter's turned her into, but again, when this happens to Taylor, she acts out, and I kind of like seeing rebellious Taylor. It's just fun to see, especially because of, Taylor's never like that, so I really like seeing this side of Taylor because we never get to see that, and I thought it was really funny. So she pretends that she's 18 and she's going to this college, in Stanford, which is the college she actually does want to go to, and her grandma calls her for photos, and Joan and Buddy position them for all for a photo, and then she asks Taylor and Carter to swap places. She keeps on, and Elizabeth tells her enough. Joan grabs the girls, takes them outside, and Carter asks Taylor if she talked to Max yet and says it's not a good time to break up. And Taylor tells her to stop it because, she knows what she's trying to do. And Joan introduces them to Ann Wallace. And this woman seems more interested in Carter than she does in Taylor. And Joan leaves them both with a woman who's Dean of Admissions at Stanford, which is the place that, Taylor wants to go to. And she tells Carter that she should fly out to campus, and Taylor says she's applying there. And Anne asks Carter where she wants to go to school, but Carter says Taylor's the smart one. Anne says she should think about Stanford too, and says her story and life experience would likely sway things her way, which is true. But the thing is, Carter doesn't seem like the kind of person that would just, do things because she has a story, and that would be good for her. I mean, that's just not what Carter would do. She's never like that, and that just doesn't seem like something that, anyone would like. So she says they had some amazing women come through the school, and again, I mean, those women probably feel like those women probably feel like I'm only here because I have this story, and Carter would probably feel the same way if she did that. So she tries to turn it back to Taylor, and Anne asks if someone from the admissions team can call Carter, and Taylor's annoyed and walks off, and I honestly felt really bad for her there. I mean, clearly she wants to talk about Taylor, and Carter's not exactly interested, but she's only interested in Carter, so Carter says she's only interested in her past and walks off, and Joan finds Grant and tells him he looks handsome in his new suit. She asks Grant what's going on with his parents because she can tell that something's going on. She has that mother instinct that knows that something is going on between Elizabeth and David and says if he doesn't tell, she'll make him slow dance with her, and he tells her they're splitting up, and Joan grabs Elizabeth, and she knew this was going on, and I really love this scene because basically she pulls her aside to talk about their split, and Elizabeth reminds her mom that she doesn't even like David and calls him a loser, and Joan says she wants to be reasonable and asks if she's talked to a lawyer, and Elizabeth says she hopes it's just temporary, and Carter finds Max at the bar and asks if he's seen Taylor. Max says she went off with a waiter. They find her playing drunken quarters in the kitchen with the wait staff, and basically we see tipsy Taylor, and I thought this was really funny overall, especially in such a dark episode. It was cool to have this comedic humor in there. So Max and Carter find her. She's guzzling booze, and she asks who's next. Max steps up, and Taylor says he can't drink because he got shot, and she tosses him the ball, and he asks if they can talk. She shrugs and walks off, and Grant complains about the party, and Joan says she heard a security guard talking about kids racing golf carts in the Black Green. I can understand why Grant's upset. There's no kids there. It's just him and his sisters and his parents, and it's just really boring. And, Joan wants to make it fun for him. So she said there was a security guard talking about kids racing golf carts on the black green, and Buddy says he'll give him his cart, and David asks Joan if she knows, and she says she knows it couldn't be, and I really like this line, she says she knows it couldn't be easy, him showing up tonight, and you see that Joan really does feel bad for David, which I like seeing. I kind of like that Joan's taking David's side over Elizabeth's side, because, let's admit it, Elizabeth is acting a bit immature, and a bit just like, I don't really care, but you can tell that she does. So Max puts his jacket on Taylor, and she says she can't sit or she'll get sleepy. Then she starts dancing, and this is some of the funniest stuff Taylor's ever had. I thought this was hilarious. Max says he likes that she does a play-by-play when she's drinking. She asks him to dance, but he says he's pushing it already, and, she's like, I'm not gonna dance for you, that'd be sexual, da-da-da. He pulls her down aside beside him and says he's sorry to hear folks are breaking up. Taylor asks why he came tonight, and he says he was invited. Max says he wasn't ready to leave her. Taylor says she misses them and kisses him, and basically they're getting back together. So they're now getting back together, and asks what she thinks. But Taylor says that she's not ready to get back together. And Taylor says nothing has changed, and he's still let Crash back into his life, and he tells Taylor he loves her. She says she almost lost him, and that feeling shouldn't be more important than him forgiving Crash. And she says if he had died, she wouldn't be able to handle it. And she says that's why she needs to take a step back and focus on her future. And she says she can't even do that anymore with Carter. She says Carter has ruined her life, and he says Carter wants them back together. And she says it's not up to her, and she gets pissed at Carter. And I really like seeing this. Of course, Taylor's drunk at this point, so she's not exactly reacting how she probably would have, but she's still pretty pissed. So she goes to confront Carter and basically tells her to stop butting into her and Max's lives, and says she doesn't want her in her life. And Carter asks if this is about Stanford, and Taylor tells Carter that she's Lori, and, that's the worst thing to tell your sister. That she's this crazy kidnapper, she's no better than some crazy kidnapper that, gave her roofies and, gave her, tried to, put her on drugs, and she's no better than that. So I was just like, seriously, Taylor, that's the worst thing you could say. She says she takes after David and Carter, basically she takes after David, and Carter takes after the nutbag who's in prison. She tells Carter to stay out of her life and stomps out of the bar, and Carter follows her to the bar where Taylor tries to score a drink, and Taylor tells Joan that Carter's going to Stanford, and then Joan tells Taylor that she's drunk and is embarrassing the family, and she tells Joan that she's not even her grandmother, and Joan asks what she means by that, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? They all go by to sit, and Taylor tells them she's sorry, and she thought they knew about the egg donation, and that was the worst time for her to reveal it. And basically Joan and Buddy want to sue the clinic over what Lori did, and Joan asks if there's any more secrets, but Elizabeth says no. But Carter looks kind of unsure because, Carter just isn't really sure if there's any more secrets, because it seems like the secrets have never stopped. Even when they told her that the lies were over, there were more secrets. So, and I still feel like there are more secrets. I agree with Carter that it just seems like there's more there. It just seems like there's never enough secrets in this family. It just seems like there's going to be more and more as the show goes on. So the party winds down, they walk out, and Taylor says she's sorry she wrecked their party. Buddy says at least they entertain their friends, and Joan talks about them taking turns at the house, and she asks if David, if he can take the first shift, and so she can take Elizabeth home with her and take care of her, and he agrees, and Elizabeth gets a cuddle from her parents, and Taylor and Carter come into Taylor's room, and she asks Carter what happened. Carter says it's so strange they never told Grandma about the egg donor, and Taylor says she's sorry for saying Carter's like Lori, and she tells Taylor that Lori won't stop calling her, and Carter says she's so angry and wants to say awful things to Lori, and Taylor takes her hand, and I really like that these two apologize, because let's face it, one of the best parts of the show is the dynamic between Carter and Taylor. It's always going to be one of those dynamics. I think they work so well together, and I was happy that this didn't ruin their friendship. I mean, obviously, Taylor overreacted. She knows she overreacted, and I'm happy that she knew that. She wasn't just like, oh, I overreacted, I don't care, whatever. No, she's like, I'm sorry I overreacted, and I really enjoyed that scene overall. So Carter finds Max asleep in his trunk. Crash finds Max asleep in his trunk, and Max asks about the job. And this I thought was really interesting because Crash says he'll introduce him to his uncle, and Max asks if he can clean up first, and then calls Crash a lifesaver and thanks him. And Crash laughs and says he almost killed him. And I'm wondering if Max is actually going to take this job. I mean, does he actually want it? Does he think it's a good idea? I think it's a good idea for Max to take this job, but what do you guys think? Do you think he's actually going to take this job? I'm not really sure. We'll see what happens there. And basically, Carter then walks to a ringing phone. This is the end of the episode. It's Lori, and she shows the phone to Taylor. She tells Carter she doesn't have to talk to her again. Carter takes the call, and this is such a badass move. She's like, Lori, stop. Leave my family alone. And she hangs up on her, and that's how the episode ends. So overall, guys, best episode of the season, absolutely best episode. There's a lot to talk about. Let's talk about Lori. What does Lori exactly want to do? I don't know what her angle is here. I have no idea what she wants to do. But whatever it is, she has an agenda, and it's not going to get done because Carter's not going to listen to, Lori. She's going to do what Taylor tells her to do, and I'm happy that she's doing that. She's not doing, she's not going to listen to Lori. She's not going to do what Lori wants to do, which I'm happy about. Is there more to this story? I feel like there's more to this story. It just feels like, because of how many secrets have come out, there are bound to be more. So I just feel like there's more stuff that David is hiding. I'm not really sure, though. Elizabeth and David, are they going to get back together? I see them getting back together. I mean, the episode was called We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, but I think they're definitely going to get back together at some point. We'll see. Elizabeth is probably going to go to Kyle. I'm just assuming it now because, now that they're not together, they can see other people. So I think Elizabeth is going to go back to Kyle, and maybe David will go to someone. It's going to be interesting to see how they play with that. I'm interested in seeing how that works out overall. Taylor and Max, I understand why they didn't get back together, but they need to understand that this is over something ridiculous that they broke up over. I understand that she wants Max to be more loyal to her, and she wants to be able to trust him, but this is over, you seeing someone who kidnapped you. It really is a dumb reason to break up, and they need to understand that, and I hope that they do understand that, because it is really a dumb reason to break up. It's not a normal reason, and they need to, understand what's going on there. And I guess the only thing I'll talk about is Max really going to take this job? Do you think he's interested? I mean, it seems like to me he's really interested in this job. I'm interested in seeing how that works out overall. And Grant, I definitely feel bad for Grant. Grant feels like the most vulnerable character in the show. He has no idea what's going on. Is Grant going to find out more clues about what's going on? Is he going to find out more about Lori? Is all that going to happen? I mean, I'm sure he pretty much knows, but I want Grant to find out something for himself. I don't want people to tell him what's going on. I want him to find something out for himself because he's so, out of touch with everyone that it'd be great for him to just find out something, because I think that'd be awesome to see, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if they actually do that, because I'd really like for them to do that, because I think that'd be really awesome if they did do that. But overall, guys, I'm really loving this season. I know a lot of people are not loving this season. And I'm going to talk about why I don't think they are. It's different from the first season. The first season was definitely more of a family drama, but this is a thriller. This is a family trying to move on in their lives after a kidnapping. It's not going to be a happy show, and people need to understand that. A lot of people have been really upset at this show. They've been really pissed off, and to my response to them is, why are you so pissed at that? I mean, it's a great show. It's doing what you want it to do. It's giving us some amazing twists, some amazing acting. It's giving us amazing storylines. In my opinion, I think this is better than the first season. I really do. I'm enjoying it more. I'm into it more. I think the storylines are more engaging. It's more of a thriller. It's darker. I love that. Also, Carter, is she going to trust Crash? Do you think that she's eventually, Max is going to try to go to trust Crash? Do you trust Crash? Do you really think that Crash has turned his life around? I don't really know. We'll see what happens there. I think that's going to be interesting. I also want to talk about this Dean. This Dean that was interested in Carter, not Taylor. Is Carter going to talk to this Dean and try to get her to be more interested in Taylor? Because obviously she felt bad for what happened to Taylor, and I'm sure wants to do something to help out Taylor. So maybe she'll get the Dean to help out Taylor somehow. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys saw this episode. Overall, guys, I thought this was the best episode of the season. I'm really loving this season. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.